I'm just a poker player in a liberal world, and I am a liberal tweeter. Getting love on the show. Welcome to the Mouthpiece. Today, episode 6, year 1, part 2 of an amazing interview with me and 15-time World Series of Poker bracelet winner Phil Hellmuth Jr. I hope you enjoy. Allen.
Hello?
Allen Kessler. Is this the famous chainsaw?
Who's this?
This is Mike the Mouth calling from the Mouthpiece. What's going on, Allen?
Wow. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
All right, I'm in Tunica, your favorite place.
Oh my God! I said 12 years ago I'd never go back, and I've never been back since. What's going on in Tunica?
Some circuit event. I was just bored.
Yeah. Well, we're calling you because touching on the subject about the markup police and the feud with fucking that you and Deeb and even I jumped in and talking about markup. Now, the thought that Shaun Deeb could attack you for having 0.05 markup is, first of all, ridiculous. And second of all, I like to tell people that people should not bash people if they could get whatever they feel they could get. And so I feel very strongly about this. I feel very strongly about bringing people into the poker world that want to have pieces of some of their favorite poker players. And I want you to kind of touch on how you felt this week being attacked. What do you feel?
The whole thing was kind of weird. I have two different packages. I have like a high-value mixed game package.
Okay.
Where $1,500 events and lower.
Okay. Like
just mixed games and like the real gimmicky tech no limit stuff, like the big no, like the $500 ones, the Colossus.
Right.
Like the $1,500 ones, whatever. Any of the high value no limits, and it's mostly mixed games like 1,500 horse, 1,500 deuce, 1,500 Omaha high low, 1,500 stud 8, etc.
Are there 10Ks in there too, or is that in the other package? Or
no, the 10Ks are in a separate package.
Okay, gotcha.
So anyway, the 1,500 and below package. Mm-hmm. Those people charge like 1.4 for those type of events because
they should.
They have huge. And Shaun even admitted today on his Twitter that he would even give me 1.25 in those type of events. He would rate me as 1.25.
Yeah.
Anyway, so those events, and then 10K mixed, which I've had pretty good success in those. I've came in second in the 10K stud 8 several years ago for like $300,000.
Yep.
Last year I made the final table in the 10K Raz.
Right.
When the stud tournament was a 5K championship, I finished I think third in that. Mm-hmm. So the last couple of years actually the structures being like completely crazy in those. Mm-hmm. It's been very hard for me to go deep in those because that's not my style to like either bust out or move on.
Right.
So I haven't had much success in those, except last year I did make the final table in the Raz. But anyway, because of that, those events, I made a separate package of 8 possible events I would play in those at 1.05. Which you can't get lower than that because lower than that would just be whatever.
Whatever.
So anyway,
that's ridiculous. Yeah.
The whole thing escalated because I listed on 2+2, the different that I made like, I don't know, 6 or 7 final tables in the last 8 or 9 years.
Right.
And mostly mixed. In all my final tables are in different events, which is very difficult to do, actually.
And you were in the 50K. You were deep. I remember you had aces cracked by, and you played that hand so beautifully. against
I had
Hennigan.
by Hennigan. I still made the final table in that also.
Right.
So
you played those aces so great. Everybody else would have lost so many. When you check back the turn, I was watching the hand, and then fucking he bet the river and you called. I'm like, that's just, I don't know how I could ever check back the turn there and then allowed you to get, make
I
the
don't even know
final
how
table.
you remember that hand. But
because I happen to be watching, and I'm just like, and I just happen to just be walking up to the table. There was like, I think 10 left I think it was like 10 left.
I made the final table on that also.
Yeah.
So all the people that ripped me, that year I was selling the 50K at par.
Right.
And I had to turn people away because I wound up selling like 80 or 90% because like Doyle Brunson wanted 30,000.
Right.
Todd wanted this. And like just random people like Bill Chen, all these people kept saying they wanted like one or two. Anyway, I had this whole list of like 50. And I wound up making the final. That was the last time I played the event because the year after that, they added like deuce and some other crap to it for 2 years, which I didn't want to play.
Yeah.
Then
why I
the last
haven't
2
played
years,
it much.
I've been in some other events whenever it happened. I've been like in day twos or whatever.
Right.
But I actually made the final table in that event after like Scott Seaver was ripping me the whole entire tournament. What are you doing in this tournament? You're outclassed. And I actually got him to admit at the end of the tournament, because we had played together for a while, that I said, I just want to ask you a question, Scott. That we played for 3 or 4 days in this tournament, do you think that I'm worth above par in this tournament? And he said, yes, I'd have to give you credit. You're above par in this tournament. This is a 50K Players Championship.
Listen, I get on people's case that listen, you're kind of sometimes annoying, but you're a good guy, and I think you work hard on improving your play. And you come up to me, you ask me how would I have played this hand or how would I have played this, and a lot of times I'll tell you I would have done this, and you said, yeah, I was thinking you're right, I probably should have checked back. And but you ask questions, and especially when it comes to Omaha events, because
I'll tell you one thing.
You respect me.
I've never seen anybody analyze Omaha 8 hands the way you do. You are like the best person to ever ask about Omaha 8 hands.
Thanks, bro.
And that's a compliment, because I've talked to a lot of people about Omaha 8 hands.
Yeah.
But you think about it like nobody else does. Like I remember this. I don't remember the exact hand, but Randy Jensen was at the table, and you were at the table, and it was. You had this amazing hand, like ace deuce something, and
we had ace deuce 3-9, and I folded.
Yeah, and you folded the hand, and you showed me the hand as you were folding, because I was sitting next to you. We both were really deep in the tournament, like maybe 20 left.
Yeah.
And you said anybody else would be out of the tournament right now, and
I would have gone broke that hand. I would have gone broke that hand, and I tried to explain to you why, and I don't want to give too much of my secrets away, but there's. It's one of my. I tell people like one of the best articles I ever wrote. The bottom line is you have to kind of like think outside the box and locate the aces and know when it goes raise, re-raise, cold call, that all the small cards are out and somebody else probably has ace deuce, and you have to think outside the box. And a lot of times. You just got to make the fold. I mean, Scotty Wynn taught me that back in the day when Scotty was the best 08 player in the world. And don't worry, Scotty's still one of the best. But he taught me a lot of situational folds with certain ace deuce hands, and it helped me out a lot. So but I wanted to like touch on it because I had your back. I actually it started to get nasty between me and Shaun, and as much of an asshole Shaun is, we have a good relationship. We get along fine.
Yeah, actually, I get along with Shaun okay, but he just every so often he just like we played Raz in 2 different tournaments in the 1500 and I think also in the 10K, and every time I would beat him in a hand, he would criticize the way I played the hand, but like I outplayed him multiple times in Raz, and he just wouldn't admit that I had the hand figured out when we had.
Yeah, it's one of the big problems of people that think they're better than everybody else. They don't understand things that other people are doing, and I think more or less Shaun likes to just start shit because that's what he does. I texted him privately, and I just told him why he was wrong. we didn't get into it too much where he was thinking, no, Mike, you're wrong. This is that. Not, but on Twitter, he wanted to go at it, and because he wants to, what he does.
Yeah, like he's saying to me that he wants to see my records for the past 10 years at the World Series. And then admits that he doesn't even have his own records for like even the last 2 or 3 years. He wants me to come up with my exact last 10 years records. I'm on the road, first of all.
Yeah.
And I told him, I shouldn't have to produce this. I have like 70 World Series caches. I'm in like the top group in a lot of these different World Series records. I have like 1.8 million in World Series caches.
Right.
I have to show you my records. And besides that,
but that's
no matter
not the point. The point is, yeah. The point is it doesn't matter.
Anyway.
It doesn't matter. If you want to charge 1.5 and people are willing to pay it, then fucking.
I'm not even charging anything substantial. I'm charging 1.05.
I know, it's a joke.
Ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. And listen, it kind of bothered me.
Obviously, I must know what I'm doing. I made the final table of the 50K Players Championship with like 100 of world-class players in it.
Yeah, exactly.
There are like 3 or 4 other final tables in the 5 and 10K championship events. So these are all against 8 players in each game.
The greatest comment is that of Shaun Deeb is, it doesn't matter what you did your whole life in poker. It only matters what you've done the last 4 years, because he's done well the last like 2 or 3. So that's all that matters. Everybody else fucking sucks. It's pretty funny.
He was selling action himself to other people for years and years and years before he finally broke through.
Exactly. So no, he was being staked by a certain person for year after year after year too. So I think it's pretty funny when he gets a hold of a lot of money and now everybody sucks and nobody should be able to do this. And listen, I call him out on it. And but me and Shaun get, as much as everybody thinks Shaun's the biggest asshole, we get along well. And
no, I get along with him well also. I even mentioned that on Twitter. I said, we were together for one whole month in WSOP Europe. He was there chasing the Player of the Year, but nobody actually came to chase.
Right.
So he didn't really have to chase, but he was already there. So, and I cashed like 4 or 5 times there.
That's
also.
Great.
So I was just there because I like to play World Series events.
That's great. Well, I just wanted to touch on that for my segment.
I want to bring up something very important, though. So today, he's doing something where he's saying, ask me any question you like, right?
On Twitter?
He's got like some open mic thing where you can ask him any question, right? So he's upset because he thinks that I actually am pretty well off, but he thinks that I'm well off and I shouldn't be selling anything at markup regardless.
Right.
Because I don't need the money. That's what he's like his claim, right? So I said, forgetting that point, I said, what do you think my value is in my low package, 1,500 or less, high value, no limits, and mixed games, right? Mm-hmm. So he gives me an answer. He says, in the limit, in the mixed games, not limit, like whatever mixed game, PLO, Omaha 8, whatever, all the mixed games, horse, I would give you a 1.25, which is a reasonable number. Mm-hmm. And he said in the no limits, where you're playing like mostly people off the street, like recreational players in these $500 no limit, mm-hmm. He's saying, even though I've had pretty big success in these, that I'm worth below par in those.
He's
right?
wrong. He's wrong.
So he says your overall package should be 1.1. That was his new number, right? Mm-hmm. Because 1.25, and I said, well, first of all, the majority of my package is the 1.25 events that you're talking about.
Right.
I only sprinkle in these no-limit events if there's nothing else to play.
Right. Yeah.
I would never play.
I play 2 no-limit events a year, so I understand.
Omaha 8 or something, right? Yeah. So anyway, I come up with a question, and I say, listen, you're saying that I'm worth below par in the no-limit events. Would you cross-book me at par?
Yeah.
In the 1,500 or below no limits, right?
Yeah.
And he says, what's the point of you cross-booking me if you're selling action? That's just giving you more action at par. That doesn't make sense. So I come back with this. I say, I'll tell you what, I'll post on Twitter, and I guarantee you people, either on poker shares or just random people, will want to cross-book against you, taking me at par in these low buy-in, high-value
I'll take you at par, too. I think you'll crush them.
So anyway, he doesn't really respond. But then this guy Plenopads, who's like I don't know who he is.
Right.
Patrick Leonard, Plenopads on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't know who
he comes back and he says, Shaun, I'll take Allen in all the 1,500 or below no limits at par to crossbook.
Wow. Right?
So now he's put on the spot after he claimed that I'm worth like below par, right?
Right.
And he reneged on the offer and he said it's too much risk for a very small gain, so I won't do it.
I told you, he just likes to be an asshole. That's what he does. You know, and he admits it. That's the thing. You know, I can't argue with a guy who admits I like to be an asshole.
So, I mean, if you're going to say somebody's worth below par, and then you tell them that, and then they offer it a crossbook, and he comes up with a shoot to that, and I said, well, we'll get somebody different to crossbook. That way, I'm not taking more of my own action. So somebody else volunteers to take more action, and then he reneges on the whole thing, and he says, I'm not going to do it.
It's funny.
There's no upside for me.
It's funny. It's like, listen, I think Shaun's a great no-limit hold'em player. I think I'm a great no-limit hold'em player, but I would.
No, I know I'm not spectacular.
I would not cross book myself against you in the smaller buy and no limits because, first of all, I'd be thinking about a 10K 08 or mixed game going on the next day, and I could probably half the time just dump my chips to go because I didn't want to miss that tournament. So I think you'd have.
I don't play that way. I take each tournament as it comes. I don't buy. I don't think about the like.
Yeah.
Some days I'll do something, and I don't think if I make this, I'm going to miss the 10K stud 8 or whatever. I just play.
Maybe that's what I should do. I think of tournaments that I know that I'm a favorite in, that I'm not going to miss no matter what. So then I'll miss some real good EV no limit tournaments that I should probably be playing because I'm afraid to miss like an 08 or a stud 8 tournament. So maybe that's something this year I'll take into consideration. So. Anyways, it's good talking to you, Allen. I just wanted to get your take on that, and then I'm going to put you on for an actual interview. We'll talk about different things.
All right, no problem. Later. I'll be on for like a whole segment if you want.
You got it. All right, my man.
All right.
Take care. Bye.
The Mouthpiece.
If you'd like to take part in our phone call segment, you can give us a call at 702-329-0480. And if you're a snowflake or a pussy and you don't want to talk to me, you can email me at mouthpiecepodcast@gmail.com. Also, follow me at the Mouth Matiso on Twitter for times that our call-in segment will be live. Okay, here comes my favorite part of the week, the phone call segments. Let's see what people have to say this week on the Mouthpiece. Hey, this is Mike Matiso. Welcome to the Mouthpiece.
This is Mike?
This is Mike. Who's this?
Mike, what's up, man? My name's Rick. I'm from San Pedro, brother.
Oh, what's up, my man? How's it going, man?
Hey, man. I got a couple questions for you, man. I really admire your game. I admire your personality, what you've been through. I just want to know your insight when you went through that whole ultimate bet when you were playing online and you were getting crushed, and they had the super user, whatever the hell was going on.
Yep.
And you knew you were better than what the results you were
I knew
getting.
I was getting cheated. I knew for sure.
Yeah,
I felt it.
But you know what? You kept firing though. What made my question is this? What made you keep going after it, even though you knew you weren't?
I was very good friends with Russ Hamilton. And I called him and said, I know I'm getting cheated. I lost 53 out of 54 poker sessions. I said, I feel it. I'm making these great moves. I'm getting called by third pair, fourth pair. I'm like, something's not right. He goes, Mike, we have the greatest security. It's impossible. This man used to call me to play him head up Omaha 8 or better, 300, 600. Okay?
So my question is this, Mike. You knew you were getting beat by a sucker. You knew you were better than him.
Yeah.
And you lost 53 out of 54. What made you keep playing? I know he kept telling you and giving you bullshit, but I mean, how come you weren't smart enough to see it, brother? Tell me. I just want to know what you were thinking.
Because I was blinded by friendship. I was blinded by people who I thought would never. I mean, he would call me to play him head up and was beating me every time, and I was the best Omaha 8 or better player in the world. And I mean,
That's a piece of shit, bro.
I got $350,000 back, but I think I should have got $1 million
what's that?
back.
Wait, I didn't hear you.
They returned $350,000 to me, but
your total was over $1 million.
I think I got cheated out of a lot more. I think close to $1 million. You know, but well, listen, when I got the $350 back, it was like found money. So whatever, it is what it is.
But didn't that same thing fuck UConn too? Like that put him through the whole. Like he went through that same deal.
Let
me
tell you something about UConn Brad. I used to chase him
and
around.
I love that dude's game.
I used to.
But I know he's a little degenerate. But
I used to chase him around. Almost like. I'm like, what are you worried about money? All you have to do is follow life is good around. He's free money. I mean, he would tilt and give away his money. So he wants to say he got cheated. I don't think he got cheated. He used to play like shit online. I mean,
online,
yeah,
online, but in live games.
No, he plays good live.
Right?
He plays really good live, but online the game wasn't meant for him, and he was just like a sucker. So you know, he wants to say he was cheated because he was. But I'm telling you, before I knew him, and we became we became pretty good friends for a while. Matter of fact, I blame him for my losing streak because he broke my mirror in my house, and then after I was like a multimillionaire, and then he broke my mirror, and then I lost about I don't even know how many millions straight. I blame him all the time for it.
So he brought the bad juju to you.
Well, I'm very superstitious, and he broke this mirror that was in my house. So I'm just like, dude, if I fucking end up, my life goes bad, I'm gonna blame you, and then next thing you know, I lost all my money, and I got paralyzed. I mean, I blame it all on Brad. Don't worry. But you know what? He really played bad online, and most of the money he lost was because the thing. No,
I've seen a lot of videos when he posted online. Yeah. He played he was awful.
Yeah,
for being like a high stakes player and being a winning player like Fussy, like live. When I saw him play online, I was like, this dude's fucking awful.
Yeah, he's
but
terrible.
He still was cheated. He was cheated.
But you know what? The worst thing that come out of the UB thing, and I tell people this all the time, is. Because they were looking at my cards, they took away my ability to pull the trigger. I used to be the most aggressive player in poker, and then I became afraid to fucking pull the bluff because I was always afraid of getting called because every time I did it online, they called me. So it took me.
Not only
it took me many a years.
Bank account, they took your soul because every move you thought was right.
Right.
You were getting called down and losing, so it affected your whole game.
Yeah. Now, I'm able to pull the trigger now a little more, not like I used to, but it really, that was the worst thing. Forget the money. I could care what the money they took. What they took away, the ability to pull that trigger for many years, cost me so much money. It can never get back.
Because you got to be looking in the mirror after those sessions and going, "What's wrong with my game?"
Yeah.
You know, I thought I was a top 5 player.
Believe me,
I'm getting crushed every single session.
Exactly. That was the worst part of it. I appreciate you calling in. Tell all your friends to listen to the Mouthpiece and have a great weekend.
Hey, Mike, you're the best man. I'm rooting you on, brother.
Thanks, brother. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
If you haven't been lucky enough to catch us during our live phone call segments, keep in mind that you can call me at any time and leave a voicemail with your questions. So let's take some voicemails now from our listeners.
Hi, Mike. This is Andrea from Miami. I hear you saying that you are one of the best mixed game players. I just want to ask you if you think there's going to be like a boom of poker where a different type of poker is going to come up. Like, before was limit, and now, no limit came along. Let's say, what do you think would be the next, type of poker that can actually, be successful? PLO, Omaha, Omaha Heat or Studs. And if you think, there are going to be actually a new boom for a different type of poker, would you be ready to, kind of like be, on the front end, playing all the games and, where the people probably, they're not as good as you and, try to get all the money again. You're doing great. By the way, I love the podcast. I love it. You think you're meant for, to do the podcast. Keep on doing great work. Bye.
Well, thanks, buddy. I think it's very possible the next big thing, and some people disagree with me, will be short deck, no limit hold'em. It seems to be catching on. I think they might even be having a short deck event at the World Series this year. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to look into that. But somebody told me they were. because No Limit Hold'em is so boring to watch, and everybody out there will be the first to say it's like watching paint dry. I think with short deck being there's always action, I think it'll be more riveting for television. That's my opinion. I have not played it yet, but I talk to people about it all the time, and it was pretty funny. Somebody asked me about it. I said, so there's no 2s, 3s, 4s, or 5s or in the deck, or 6s. I said, well, that's real easy. So 10 Jack suited is the best hand, right? And they said, yeah. And they said, well, aces is like 0.1% better, but the second best hand is 10 Jack suited, but they all overplay it. And I didn't even need to know anything about short deck poker to know that 10 Jack suited is the best hand, because there's, with all the 1s through 6s being out, 10 Jack makes a straight. Any which way you look at it, it makes a nut straight. So, plus it can make a flush. So, it didn't take me long to figure that out. So that's my opinion. I think short deck, No Limit Hold'em could take off right now. As far as the mixed games go, I hope a lot more people get into mixed games, but they're kind of boring to watch unless you get shorthanded. Actually, they might even be more boring to watch than No Limit Hold'em, because you got to play even tighter because it's a pretty mathematical game. So that's my opinion on that. So thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
The Mouthpiece.
I want to touch on something else that's pretty important to me to talk to you about, and that's what I consider, since I've known you, the best poker tournament you ever played. And that's the 2012 World Series of Poker main event. You became the first person in history to win the main event and the World Series of Poker Europe main event. You want to tell our listeners about what went through your mind, how you decided to change gears and become the old, super aggressive Phil Hellmuth that just dominated that table. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody?
Well, that also happened to me in the 100K buy-in about 3 years ago.
I remember that.
The one drop, where I just was playing every hand and going crazy. Mm-hmm. I was just playing on pure reads.
Right.
And it was just, it's kind of something to behold, and then people start talking about it. But that one's actually captured on tape.
Right.
So for about 4 days, I just thought I had perfect reads. It's like I knew what they had every hand.
Right.
And if you know what they have every hand, then you're playing every hand. So I remember one day, there was a guy that kept raising, and he was pretty aggro. And I'm like, oh, he has nothing. So he'd open for, 4,000, and I'd make it 20,000. Mm-hmm. I never even looked at my cards. Just over and over. He kept folding. Maybe got away with 180 bluffs in that tournament. Probably 178 out of 180 worked.
Would you say that you
That's a sick number, Mike.
Would you say, is this a fair...
The reason why...
I want to ask you one thing. Is this a fair enough statement that you bluffed more times in that 2012 main event than you might have bluffed in the last 6 years combined?
No, not even close.
Okay. Go ahead.
What do you think? I just play super tight all the time and then flick it on once a year?
No, I think that in the last 3-4 years the last 3 years especially that I think super tight is right, and you don't go. I'm not talking about 3-betting, but I'm talking about going
Mike,
for
when
full
you and
blocks.
I discuss poker, when I tell you what I'm doing,
right.
And you and I and Brandon Cantor are the only people I talk poker
right.
with. When I tell you what I'm doing, we're talking about how is the world playing right now.
Correct.
And if the world's playing no hands, then I can play every hand.
Correct. Well, we know
but
that.
I will tell you, generally speaking, they're playing tons of hands right now.
Right.
And so it's just, they make my job easy. All I have to do is sit in a shell and wait.
Yeah.
And make a few reads. Like, I only have to make 2 or 3 reads a day.
Right.
Because they just play so many hands now.
Correct.
And so that's a beautiful thing. And now all of a sudden it seems like they've shifted back towards super tight again.
Yeah,
but it seems like there's a herd mentality in poker. We all agree what's perfect. And then as a way of ending, oh, I'm so good at poker, even though these guys don't even cash half of them. Oh, I'm so good at poker. Look what Phil is doing wrong.
Right.
And then they all agree.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful system.
The mob mentality.
That I can make a play.
My favorite word to say, the mob mentality. Go ahead.
Not when I'm tired, but when I'm actually playing great and I put on some moves that they've never seen before, or they discard it. Mm-hmm. And so then they all agree it was a bad play. And so then I hear that hand is universally dinged up. Mm-hmm. And I'm at home laughing with Cantu and you. Mm-hmm. And we're like, how can the world not understand the beauty of this play?
Yeah.
How can, what I wonder is, how can great players not understand reality? Well, in other words, if someone's winning all the time, year after year after year, and they're always winning bracelets, they're getting there in no limit hold'em tournaments all the time, year after year after year, and you don't know what they're doing, then why in the world aren't you studying what they're doing?
Well, Ted Ford...
But not, let me finish,
Go ahead.
Not these guys.
No.
Instead, they'd rather spend time throwing shade and teaching the world to play poorly. And that just so happens to be the perfect formula for me, and for you, because they're all playing badly. And so it's a beautiful thing when they teach everybody's on GTO. GTO is the best theory ever. It'll never be wrong. Well, most of the high-limit players have moved off GTO already. But for 3 years, they said, no one will ever beat GTO.
Well, it's great for people that don't know how to play. I mean, if you don't have any talent, GTO is a beautiful thing. But if you have talent, I don't...
Yeah, but there's a lot of systems that are a beautiful thing if you have no talent.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
And so it's interesting to me. I mean, I severely disagreed with a lot of GTO stuff. Like, for example, they were teaching you're supposed to call almost every re-raise before the flop. Yeah. So you raise with 10-9 offsuit, someone else puts in a big re-raise, you're supposed to call.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I think that's horrendous.
Me too.
And so, but the funny thing is that they all swore by it. Now they're on to the next theory and the next theory. But it's very interesting to see which way they go. Some great players think you're supposed to defend in the blind every single hand. And they're doing that. And some can pull it off.
Right. Well, it's just going to make you...
If you wanted to say, wow, I'm a great player, I want to defend 60 or 70% of the big blinds, I might say, okay, so be it, but that's only because you're a great player.
I agree. You can't do it unless you're a great player and you're able to read after the flop. And it's... I remember, I'll just go back like a couple months ago to the Wynn tournament that I played in. I had raised and the guy 3-bet me, and I thought he was weak, okay? But I purposely turned ace-jack over just to think he could run me over. And he showed me like, he had like 10-9 or something, and he was laughing or whatever. And he's like telling all his friends, like, I might just insta-folded ace-jack. I did it for a reason. They don't understand. I always like to say, if you ever think you're running over a great player, you better reevaluate your situation. They all think that I'm the tightest in the world, which, hey, I play tight, okay, but I also set them up, for when the blinds and antes go higher, and then I pick my spots, and well, I'm not going to give my strategy. Never mind. I'm the tight knit. Never mind. Let's just erase what I just said. But if you ever think you're running over a tight player, you're not, okay? Or a good player, okay? And the thing is like you were just saying, is they like to... Ted Forrest once told me something. It was the greatest quote ever. Everyone compares their A game to the next person's F game. So they see somebody that's having a bad day or misplays a couple hands, and they're like, oh, he's an idiot. Oh, he's the worst. Oh, whatever. And they just don't get it. They've had bad days too. And that's why back in the days we could get away with it because, there weren't that many great players. And I respect a lot more players than I used to. But, you've really helped me out, like even in the LAPC recently with, these guys aren't better than you, Mike. Quit thinking they're better than you. They're not, and you built my confidence up. You helped me, you really helped me out a lot, get through. And I believe to this day, and I have no problem saying it. I finished 27th, but with 35 people to go, I had 57 big blinds at 2-hour levels, and I had only played with 2 other people who I thought were as good and maybe slightly better than me. And I hadn't played a no limit hold'em tournament it in 2 years. So, that's why I believe when we discuss no limit hold'em strategy and stuff, I still believe the way we think is the way, and I'm not going to tell anybody the way we think because they'll just have to.
Well, that's the first time you listened to me in a while too. I was texting you. You were texting me hands, and I was really encouraging you to play super, super tight.
Yeah.
And you happen to be really good at that.
Yeah.
And then you actually kept your moves down to like 3 or 4 a day. Some days not even making many moves.
Right.
Because they're such calling stations. That's all you had to do.
Yeah, and we're so
also,
deep.
Also for you, because you were on less men, so you went from taking over 20 pills a day down to like whatever, 10 a day or 9.
Yeah.
But you were much clearer thinking because you started beating me on the app. I knew you were thinking clearly. And so I'm like, wow, Mike's thinking clearly. Even when you were doing 20 pills a day, you were winning money every time I staked you.
Right.
And so then I was like, whoa, I mean, now he seems really sharp.
Yeah.
And first tournament out of the box, you won a super satellite to get in.
Right.
And then you went deep, and you had a shot in that thing.
No, I had a good shot.
I think you lost a big hand with ace king against 4s late.
Yeah, it was pretty depressing. But that's that's it. So when you won that, going back to you, when you won the WSOP main event, and I remember all the kids in the world, all the young players, they're finally like, oh, I've never seen Phil play like that. Oh, he played so great. Oh, he did this. Oh, he did that. And listen, I'll go out I watched that final table on TV, and I thought it was the best I had seen you play in years. But
well, Mike, I played 48% of the hands at that final table. No one in history has done that. Not even close.
And normally you play about a lot less.
10 deuce. I was calling raises with. I could play any 2 because I always knew whether they hit or not.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they did hit, I knew if I could take it away.
Even if you go back all the years.
If you go back and you look at that final table, Mike, you'll see that Sergey put like 4 just nasty beats on me. The one time he had king 9. I slow played jack 10 on the 10-4 deuce. The deuce paired. Now I raised him on the turn.
Mm-hmm.
And he called with king 9. And he hit a king. And I bet out decently on the river. And he flipped up 3 times. I trapped him with top pair. And 3 times he hit his offsuit overcard after calling a better raise on 4th Street. Okay? And that just set me off. But effectively what it did is it just made me, spend a couple of extra hours. But if you go back, that was one of my best performances ever. And I knew this coming out of it. I knew that I was in trouble. Mm-hmm. For a while, because I knew that you can't play that fast and get away with it all the time unless you have perfect reads.
Right.
And I remember heading right to the Win a few months later and playing in a tournament or one of those places, and I had a lot of chips, and I just couldn't slow down when I was supposed to.
Right.
And I was just but when you get it in your blood to play that fast. And there are some young players that are really good at playing fast.
Right.
And once they learn how to pair that with playing slow, then they really will show something.
Well, that was Antonio's problem for a lot of. We used to always laugh. We're like, God, Antonio's so great at playing fast, but he never knows how to slow up. If he ever did, he'd be unbelievable.
Antonio's a special case because if you ask Antonio, he'll admit this.
Yeah.
He was one of the fastest tournament players ever, and one of the slowest, tightest cash game players ever.
And tell everybody what he is now, Phil.
And now, all of a sudden, he's one of the fastest cash game players, but he also gets to play in the best games.
Right, yeah.
He's invited me to his games, and I just don't fly away, even though the game's good.
Right.
I choose to spend more time doing what I want to do every day.
One thing I respect about Antonio, one of his famous quotes, and it was recently when it was back during the LAPC when he said, how come you didn't play the 2-400 game on at the bike? And he goes, sir, I don't want to play I don't play against 7 pros. I play against 7 fish. And it's such a great comment because poker's not about trying to beat the best players in the world. It's about finding the best game that gives you the best equity to win money. That's what
I disagree a little bit, Mike, but for most people, that's what poker's about.
Right.
And Antonio's case is interesting because here's a guy that has lost millions of dollars on televised high stakes games, millions.
Right.
He'll admit it. I mean, he didn't win for like 3 years in a televised cash game, and then somehow, some way, he's won just so much money in the cash games.
Right.
And Antonio, I know him. He wouldn't want me to mention any numbers.
Right. I don't.
And so I won't. But I'll just say that he's done really well.
Right.
In cash games.
Yeah, I know. And his I like his thought process in cash games. He gets himself where he's the better player, the best player. He plays against.
No, dude, do you remember the beat he put on you?
Oh yeah.
He lost his mind on this hand. It was.
Oh my
we were playing like the blinds were 5-10, right?
2 and 5.
You made it like 1,200 to go.
No,
queen.
it was $1,000 straddle. I made it 3,000, and I only had like 12 behind. And he calls 3,000 cold, and with ace 8 of diamonds, and
you were the tightest player in the world in that game. You make it 3,200. I thought you made it.
Yeah.
You calls 3,200 with ace 8 suited, and then it comes king, 3, 4, all diamonds, and you have red queens.
Yeah.
So,
but I know he doesn't have ace king because he would have re-raised me because that's how.
Yeah. So you check raise them all in, and he's like, "I've been up."
Yeah.
And I just thought, how did he call 3,200 with the ace 8 of diamonds?
Because Mike hasn't played a hand in 2.5 hours. What did you think he has? And he says, well, I just figured if he misses, I'll just take the pot from him. I'm like, misses what? What did you think I had? That was pretty funny, again. But I respect Antonio. But all right, well, we'll talk about the 2013 NBC head up between me and you when we ended up head up in that tournament. I know you think I made a bad call in the tournament, and which is fine. That's all good. But
no, 100% you made a bad call. The weird thing is you ignore reality sometimes. Like all you have to do is go back and look at the video and see how much you called, and then you'd be like, oh God, that was a horrible call. Of course, but like some people, when they know they're wrong in an argument, they say all kinds of weird stuff like, well, there was this or that or the other thing.
Well,
the one thing that was in your favor is this, Mike. You did not have the math. Like the math was so far against that.
No, it was. No, I know the math was against me.
You forgot that I would have had the chip lead had you lost the pot. But the one thing that I talked you into making the call, once you flipped up the queen deuce, I knew I had to talk you into calling to give me back the chip lead. And I said, Mike, this might be your only chance to win it.
Well,
is what I said. And all of a sudden, you had this weird look on your face. And I think
I counted my chips, and I said, well, there's like 1.6 million in chips. If I lose the hand, I still got like 780, which is almost even. I'm like, I feel like I'm playing good enough to win. And I can win the tournament right here. I know I'm getting the wrong odds, and I'm just like, fuck it, man. I can fucking call, win it here, and if not, I could just go back to play solid and win it there. But you did talk.
Dude, you bet like
you did talk me into calling. I will.
You bet like 80,000, and I moved in for 357.
No, I bet 107, and you moved in for 335. But the point is
no, Mike. You want a side bet on that?
Yeah, you got to bet. I bet 107
okay,
to be exact.
Much?
Trust me, I bet 107. You say 80.
357.
When I bet and you moved in, it was about another.
Mike, bet me 3,000, okay?
No, I'm not betting.
You won my last one of these bets.
I'm gonna beat you again, but I can't pay if I lose, so I can't make.
That's
my
okay.
bets.
We'll put it on the bill, 5,000.
And you're saying I bet 80 on the turn?
No, I'm saying what I'm saying, and it's recorded for everybody, is that I was all in for 357,000.
Correct, 357 Magnum. I remember that correctly. It was so. I remember because when I went in the tank, you said 357 Magnum, baby. Or no, after I went in the tank, you said 357 Magnum, baby. So I know you were all in for 357, but pretty sure. You say I bet 80. I say I bet 107. It was like
Call
350 more to call.
I was just betting that I had 357.
Oh, I know you had 357. 100%. That. Okay, so
now you do. You almost bet another 3.
No, but it was a misunderstanding there.
Anyway, okay, Mike. Whatever. The point is, you made the call, and you needed a diamond to win. I had top pair. I also said, Mike, I might have a deuce. I studied so long, I might have a deuce. Of course, I had top pair with a kicker.
Yeah, well, I knew you had king.
But you actually thought, wow, if he doesn't have a deuce, I can hit a queen or a diamond.
Well, before you called, I thought you had like second pair, and I'm like, oh, well, I can hit a queen or a diamond. But when you called, I knew you had a king. And it's so funny going back to that hand, like the young kids are like, oh, what took Phil so hard to call? He had top pair. Well, because he knew I wasn't bluffing, and I had re-raised pre with like queen deuce. So if he knows I'm not bluffing, which I really kind of wasn't, it was like a semi bluff. What does Phil beat? And these are. We're not going to talk strategies.
That was one of those hands, Mike, where it came king jack and I had king 10.
Right.
That was one of those hands where I needed the 3 minutes. Like, that's what people don't understand. I play super fast all the time. Almost all the old school players are super fast. Every once in a while, I need 3 or 4 minutes on one hand.
Right.
And it happened to me the other night in my cash game here in Palo Alto, and it happened to me that time. And I took 3 or 4 minutes, and finally I'm like, okay, I have them for sure. And then I moved in.
Right.
And so
I remember you look back at your wife when I went to tank, and you go, "We got him, baby." I'll never forget it. I mean, it seems like it was yesterday, which it was for me because my last 5 years has been such a nightmare.
Well, you know what hurt about that one, Mike, is I'll tell you, I think of all the matches, I think I won my matches pretty easily and pretty quickly each one. For some reason, I have a knack for heads up. Just played a heads up on the East Coast and won that with 64 players. I have a knack for heads up.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'll go on the limb and say, as far in no limit hold'em, I always felt Phil was a better no limit hold'em head up player than me.
Well, I mean, like
the best
what
to
was
me.
it? A year and a half ago, I played Jungle Man heads up, and I played Doug Polk heads up. And I won that championship. And so I have a knack for heads up. Hold'em's always made sense to me, but heads up's Hold'em has always made the most sense to me.
And I look back, but people don't realize, I want people to go back and look, is me and Phil actually filmed a head up. This is at the height of the poker boom, I think, for EA Sports, for the World Series of Poker. And we were all dressed in those little dots, and you had to unlock to get to play Phil head up. Remember that? You were like on the cover of that EA. Yep. Okay, so we played a couple of matches, and so you get to unlock to watch us play, and then the winner of us, you got whatever it was, and you dominated me in that match. I'll never forget it. And and that was back when that was before the ultimate bet scandal, where I was still probably one of the best no limit players in the world. And I felt like, fuck, man. I'm like, how can he have dominated me like this? But it was as crazy as it sounds. Like, I've always told the stories. I had a dream I won that NBC head up. It's the only reason why I played it. And me and you made a little save.
Well, it was interesting, Mike. Let's go back to the NBC Heads Up Championship for a couple of reasons. One is that you and I, I remember the party the night before.
Right.
Everybody's talking about all these young, great players. This young, great player.
I know.
They play heads up on the internet. They click buttons. They're the best heads up players in the world. What are these old guys even doing here? You know what I mean?
Oh, and fucking what's his name? Who's that jackoff that I can't stand that plays head up? You know who I'm talking about. Whatever. And he's like, Mike Madison doesn't even deserve to be in this poker tournament. He's a has-been. He sucks. He can't play.
That's what they said. They said Mike doesn't even deserve to be here. I remember that.
Yeah. And I remember.
Begrudgingly, I don't know what they said about me, but believe me, it was like, it's like, well, these kids are so much better than the old guys, because all they do is play heads up on the internet thousands of hours, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of hands. Well, guess what? You have to look me in the face when you're playing heads up, and it's a much slower format.
Yeah.
And if you can hide the feelings on your face against me, congratulations. Then you're going to have to play against my technique.
And I say that all the time, and they they laugh at us when we say this, but I know it, and I know you know it, that is something we're born with. I can literally study somebody, and I don't need to know that this blocks this or this blocks this, and so he doesn't have. I just can know when I'm beat or I'm not, and they laugh when I say it or when you say it, and that's fine. They could keep laughing, but the bottom line is if I'm able to study and look, I will fucking somehow I pick up whether I'm beat or I'm not. And if I can't pick up on it, well, you know what? I'll make a fold and find a better spot, which is what you do really good. But, in that tournament, I'll never forget when the most important thing was when I faced Isildur and he was like considered the best head-up, no-limit hold'em player in the world in 2013. He probably still is. He plays a lot of high stakes. And I got in the zone and I beat him. And I think it was round 2 or 3. It was one of the two. And he looked at me and he said, Mike, you're going to go deep in this tournament. He goes, I could not read you. You really played amazing. He says, I think you got a good shot to win it. Now, when he said that, you don't understand that when you bring somebody who's had a little bit of confidence problems, after the full tilt fiasco of 11, and now, okay, I got a guy who's considered the best no-limit head-up player in the world telling me how hard I was to read and how great I played. I got a good shot to win. You know as well as I know, poker's a lot about confidence. So now, my confidence was sky high, not to mention I had a dream I won the tournament. I played my ass off, and we'll always argue about this because we're good friends. You'll say, it's the worst call. And, it probably wasn't the best call, but I felt it gave me 2 chances to win, and that's why I took it.
Listen, it was a bad call, but I'd made a bad call on you early in that match. And I got really tired. You flopped a flush.
That was the ace-7
And I paid it off with like...
Ace-7. You had flop top pair. You had ace-7. 7-5 deuce of diamonds game. Yeah, I remember.
Yes, and I lost, dude, like queen 6 of diamonds. I lost way too much money on that hand.
Yeah.
And I was upset at myself. I didn't even have the ace of diamonds, I don't think.
No.
And I was upset at myself because I realized that Mike is not looking to bluff me.
No.
That's when I understood that you were going to stay away from me. And then I'd made the adjustment. And now I'm like, okay, now I can win this. But a lot of times when you're playing in these tournaments, we'll have a bad moment or a bad hand that happens. And it happened to me there. And
that, and people don't realize a lot of times, like a certain hand like that, and this is a mistake I made at Bay 101 last month, is I told myself in the first hour, it was a 10 a.m. start, do not play a big pot because your chips are your bullets and you can't make a mistake. And the mistake, when you made that mistake with ace-7, it gave me a pretty big chip lead early in the match, and now you're looking at trying to grind back at a disadvantage. And
that doesn't bother me because I've done that more than anybody.
Right. But
all I told myself is that was a mistake.
Right.
Do not make another mistake.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at the killer.
Right.
And and you made that call, and I believe if you don't make that call, and you called off $250,000 on a flush draw in a spot where you needed a lot more money in there.
Right.
Your math was so far off base.
Well, I knew my math was off.
If you don't make that call,
right,
then I think I'm going to win the tournament.
Right.
And even after you made the call, I thought, okay, I do have to dodge whatever he has, 8 outs or whatever.
Right.
And I was kind of surprised it got there.
Yeah, I wasn't. I had a dream I won the tournament. But anyway, so we're going to...
Mike, you have to understand, for the people at home, how many times did you tell me last year you dreamt you were going to win the tournament, that all the signs were in your favor, that you saw yourself winning the tournament, that you knew you were going to... How many times last year alone did you say that?
No, I felt I was going to... I never said I felt I'm going to go deep and have a good World Series. Back in the day, this is before I had my injury.
Mike, so answer my question with a number.
Okay. That I'm going to win the tournament? Zero.
You said
0.
either. You want me to repeat the question?
Yeah.
How many times did you say, I'm going to win this tournament? I have an amazing feeling.
Right.
I know I'm going to get there, Phil.
Because I'm trying.
We're
We're going to touch on that. That comes from your book, Positivity. Okay.
Yeah,
and,
but how many times did you say that?
Well, I say that a lot because I have to think positive. But how many times have I said I had a dream? I had a dream. Scotty won the World Series. I staked him, and he won the World Series. I had a dream that I won
You probably told me you had a dream 2 or 3 times, but you also almost every single day said I have a great feeling.
Well, yes, that I do. But that's from you. That's from your positivity book. You know, you've seen me negative, and I try and always say, "Oh, I got a good feeling." Because if you go in there thinking, "Oh, I don't think I'm going to win," I'm not going to win. You know, so yeah, I do try and say that a lot. But before
what I'm talking about is extremes.
Yeah. Well, that's just
you have a way you're an extreme guy.
Well, yeah.
You're
I wear
like,
my heart
I'm
on
going
my
to
sleeve.
win. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You do that all the time. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do.
But you're an extremist too, Phil. So listen, this is something that I think means a lot to me. I want you to touch on. I think Shaun Deeb is, and he's my friend, and even though he's an asshole, he's my friend. We get along, we respect each other. That's fine. I think he's been completely insane with the tweets discussing markup. He calls himself on Twitter the markup police right now, which I think is a joke. What is your opinion about money, markup, and people bringing the extra money into the poker world?
Well, this is the funniest one because, first of all, Cantu calls me up, and he's like, Phil, you're not going to believe this. Shaun Deeb is screaming at Allen Kessler for $1.05 markup. And I
know.
Just busted up laughing, screaming. Then I called Daniel.
Right.
And Daniel's like, you're not going to believe this. Shaun Deeb is screaming at Allen about $1.05 markup.
I know.
And I just couldn't help it. I think you told me the same thing. And I'm just like, what is Shaun thinking? Allen some of these people, some of their comments are so delusional that I'm just in shock. And some of the comments are, what do they think? We don't have any expenses?
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think hotel rooms are free?
I know.
Do they think we eat for free? I mean, you need to have some markup just to pay the bills. So, I mean, Shaun screaming at Allen is it's just
what bothers
so
me.
Absurd.
It's absurd. And then he took it personally, and I don't like where he went with it with Daniel, and I don't like the fact that he forgets where he come from, where he was getting staked by a certain person in every tournament for many years. And, I mean, he still might be, who knows. But, now he's had a couple good years in a row, and he's like, oh, what you've done in the past means nothing. The only thing that matters is what you've done the last 4 years at the World Series. That's what makes you a great player. I'm like, okay.
What I don't like is this, Mike. Clearly, this system is great for poker.
Oh, it's awesome.
Not one person will tell you it's not. Not one reasonable person can tell you it's not great for poker, okay?
Right.
We have a system where the fans can buy a piece. That means more players play in the tournaments, bigger fields, bigger prize pools, and it means more people are engaged in the game. So it's just a win-win-win. All over the place is wins. Okay. So they came after me, okay,
I
last
remember.
year.
And I defended
for
you.
$1, for 1.8 markup, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is what they did. Then some guy, I think it was Steve Badger or somebody like that, is like, all right, we're going to do the Hellmuth meter. Mm-hmm. You think $1, 1.8 is ridiculous. We're going to keep track of his buy-ins. Mm-hmm. So I remember looking, because I couldn't help but see it on my Twitter every day. Mm-hmm. He spent $18,000. He's cashed for 3. Mm-hmm. He spent $32,000. He's cashed for 6. I'm looking at this, and they're upgrading the number. They're upgrading the number, right? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, I won one for $480,000 right at the end. Mm-hmm. And so the final number is Phil bought in for like 60 and cashed for $500K. And then no one said you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
Now, one of those people complained. Right. There was an article written by USA Today in like 2011. I need to find it, where they did ROI. Right. And here's another thing that even the smartest people don't understand. It's called return on investment.
Right.
So I have a big advantage because I don't play a lot of 100Ks and millions.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so that gives me a huge advantage. So scraping by playing 1,500s and 10Ks I've cashed for like $16 million or some absurd amount.
Right.
I don't even know what the number is. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's 14 million.
I know that. Yeah.
An absurd amount. And so my ROI is clearly way off the charts.
Right.
But anyway, people that don't pay attention, that don't know math, that are just looking to take shots at me, are like, oh my God, Phil's charging $1.08. Mike, I've listed 6 packages on the site, or 7. I've hit 6 out of 7, probably for $100,000. At least $80,000 I've hit for.
Right.
Right? All I do is win and win and win and win, and then they somehow found a way. They took pot shots at me. It's like they forget.
But here's the thing.
And their reasoning was this. It's a 10K. It's a turbo. Well, guess which tournament I won? I won the 30-minute one.
Yeah.
So, ironically, the very thing they're making fun, I put it right in their pipe again.
Exactly.
You know? And you know,
the thing that's important
I will say these people motivate me.
Yeah.
I remember a couple of the guys that said something. Now, normally I forget the names.
Yeah.
But I was a little disappointed that some of these guys went after me. And they're like, and here's their argument. Well, Phil's taking advantage of the fans.
No.
Phil's taking advantage of the fans. This guy who spent $20,
right?
You know,
exactly.
And if they take a look at the facts.
Yeah, the point I'm trying to make is
let me finish, Mike.
That
I've hit 6 out of 7 packages. That I've won 80 or 100,000 for the fans. Yet when I post at 1.6 or whatever it is, my next post, and they shamed me into not posting.
They ain't never shaming me. I'm going to be posting, and I don't
much.
give a shit. But
I've had enough. So I'm going back. I'm going to be posting some stuff at U-Stake and whatever. They're going to attack me for whatever reason.
Let them.
But what pisses me off is when people attack something that's good for the game. Do you know how many people subscribe to Poker Go, Mike? I had 200 people take a piece of me when I played in a cash game, $20,000 buy-in cash game. I won $305,000. I tried to sell 40%.
How about the time you lost and you didn't charge them?
Let me finish.
Remember that? Talk about that.
I know. But anyway, let me finish, Mike. 19% bought. Well, thank goodness for me because I won $305,000. And so it was the only time my package didn't sell out because all these guys were like probably shaming and all we're saying it's not worth it to buy a piece of Phil. And you know what? 20% of the people didn't listen to them. And so I made 200 people $60,000 that day.
Right.
And there was a time where I lost $1,500, and I said, I'm just going to eat the loss.
Right.
You know? But they don't talk about that.
No, of course they don't. But here's the thing that I want you to tell people.
A lot of poker players are haters. I just keep blocking them.
Right.
And, you know, I continue. I will shake their hands. The same people that have mistreated me, I shake their hands, and I say hello, and I'm nice to.
Right.
You know, and I forgot most of their names. Yeah. But it's getting a little old.
So the thing that I want, that I touch on this, I think is important, is the people that are buying pieces of you, the people that are buying pieces of me are, and we're charging market. We're like their favorite poker players, and there's like 200 of them that are putting up like $60 for a $40 piece, okay, where they got a chance to make real money. They don't give a crap about $20. And I like to sit there and tell people, when you go to a sporting event and the face value on that sporting event is $450 a ticket, but you want to sit in that front row ticket and the markup is you have to pay $1,100 on StubHub. They go and I can't wait to go. That's fine. But when they take a piece at markup of their favorite poker players and they get to sweat them during the whole tournament, that's not okay. And that's the problem I got with it.
Well, Mike, also it's a free market economy.
No shit.
And the United States of America has been built on a free market.
Yes.
And so I asked Shaun, the only thing I did ask him and I thought was cute, I said, Shaun, so if someone overpays for a stock on the stock market,
it's a good point.
You know, are you going to try to find out? And then whose judgment whether it's overvalued or not? Right. We have a free market economy here. It works really well.
Exactly.
You know?
It works well. I know they're trying to take it away from us, but yeah, we do have a free market.
If Shaun Deeb wants to say, well, most players aren't going to hit for money, that's true. But don't take money out of the pockets of all those hardworking professionals that have a chance to win, that don't have his amount of money.
Correct.
And the other thing I didn't like that one of the players that Shaun said, I think, was that he then started attacking. He's like, well, if you can't beat the World Series of Poker, you suck as a poker player.
Right.
Did you see that one?
No. But
Oh,
you know
my
what?
God.
I'm going to make a prediction that he has a losing year this year because when you get cocky and you talk shit, this always happens to people. Because because whenever I've had good years and I get cocky the next year, I have bad years. So, and you've been there before, so you can relate.
It certainly happens when you get too cocky. Most people get too cocky, have a little surprise.
And I respect you a lot when it comes to like controlling your ego. People don't realize how really bad it used to be if they think it's bad now. So, I do respect you for that. Now that you've won your 15th bracelet, who I talked you into playing, thank you. I had to throw that dig in there.
You do get a little credit. It was you, Brandon Cantu, and Kat.
Yeah.
Basically, dude, what you didn't understand is I had a herniated disc.
Yeah, I wanted you to touch on that a little bit. Yeah.
I was in my bed in pain. I didn't tell anybody.
I didn't even know about it
because I didn't want an excuse.
Right.
And so you guys are like, of course you need to go play this. And I'd made the final table on the 30-minute one a few years earlier, like 2 or 3 years earlier. So of course I needed to play it.
Right. It's just, I thought it fit into I was having a great World Series. You were having a bad one. And the question, and I'm glad, that was really good for you because you were so down last year, and I didn't know you were in pain. I just wanted to try and cheer you up and get you back out there and not let you be so down about having. I remember you were like, I was so sure I'm going to win a bracelet. I'm having this. I'm like, Phil, get your ass out of bed and go win, and you did, and I'm proud of you for that. Because you won your 15th last year, are you putting more pressure on yourself this year to do well, or are you going to take it a little bit different than you normally do when you have a good year the year before, kind of like what we've been talking about?
Well, you said it yourself, Mike. You said I skipped so many 10Ks last year.
Right.
You said that people were asking you, is Phil broke?
And I said,
which is kind of funny.
I don't think so.
Which to me is kind of funny, considering how lucky I was last year.
Yeah, we don't need to go there. Yeah.
But because I had the herniated disc, I was skipping a lot of events.
And the thing is, as close friends we are, I mean, you hit it from me. You just said, I'm tired, and I just wanted to try and get you back out there. It's a shame. I
realized I didn't even tell you. Yeah. Cantu's the only one who knew I had a herniated disc, and he forgot. Right. Because listen, if you're gonna tell people excuses, I have a herniated disc. If I'm gonna tell people that every day,
right,
it's taking away. I'm giving myself an excuse. I don't want excuses. I want bracelets.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a really good job of hiding that.
Right.
And so this year I don't know what it looks like. I really don't. I know this. I'm in great health.
Good. That makes two of us. Health. That makes two. Well, I'm not great health, but I played through a lot of pain the last couple of years, and you know that.
You have. I mean, your mistake, Mike, is you don't know. Your mistake is, and I'll just say it quickly, is you just don't. I've never seen a guy that just doesn't know when to quit. Like as much as you.
I know.
Like I mean,
never.
You will play 3 days straight, and you'll say, "I can't even see straight," and I'll be like, "Take 2 days off, be smarter, at least 1 day off."
Yeah.
But not you. Not only do you come back, but you start at noon the next day, and I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Oh, wow.
And then all of a sudden you got so sick that you had a huge rash on your legs, and I'm like, he did this to himself.
I got the MRSA staph infection. Yeah, it was brutal. I had to miss the main event for the only time in 20 years. They always say the worst thing is when you get knocked out of the main event. No, the worst thing is when you can't ante up for the main event. That was the absolute worst thing. So let's go to listener questions. We're going to play these, and then you answer them.
Well, let me just say this, Mike, about the series.
Okay.
I'm going to be playing a lot of events.
Okay.
But I'm also going to probably take more time off than I have in the past.
Smart.
Because I'm getting older.
Yeah, we're old, buddy. We're old.
I realize that, but I had some really deep runs, and what really hurt me in the Omaha 8 or better pot limits. The world still doesn't understand that game, as you know.
Who taught you that game, buddy? Who taught you that game?
You helped me a lot.
Thank you.
And I've had some big chip leads in that game, and I think probably because I got tired, I didn't finish well.
Right.
And I'm really disappointed because an Omaha 8 or better pot limit is just, it's just such a. So the game makes sense to me, and I need more results.
Let's not. And right now, until they learn it, let's not teach them. I got. This is one question off the top. It says, when me and you are at the table, who gets under one skin more? You guys have had a lot of battles over the year, but you've helped each other, and you shared that open and honestly and respect for each other. Do I get under your skin?
I think we're about equal when we do it.
I think so too.
But you probably get under my skin a little bit more. But the thing is this, like, my best friend up here was under my skin a little bit the other night playing, and he called me and he said, "Listen, this is just bad for our relationship.
Right.
Let's stop. Let's be nice to each other." And somehow you and Cantu and I were really going at each other hard when we played with Antonio at his place.
Right.
We really went after each other a little bit too hard. Now, everybody loved it.
Yeah.
You know, they stayed up later than they've ever stayed up to play poker because of us. But I don't think it's great for our relationship. I think we should be kinder and gentler to each other, nicer.
Yeah. You know, I think a lot of times it's cost me against you in recent years, but I don't care. I have respect for back in the days, like even back in 2005, I mean, we were acquaintances, and there's a difference between acquaintance and good friends. And so I've laid off on you a lot, and you've kind of done the same, which is kind of good. You know, as far as getting under the skin, and you bring up in your home game last night, one of my favorite quotes I love to tell people, and you could tell it, is like when you were playing with David Lee and what's his name, Green. Draymond in the home game, and they beat you in a pot, and they started laughing at you, and you got so upset you got up and you said, "Listen, motherfuckers, I had millions before you guys had anything." And you told me that story. I never laughed. That was the hardest I ever laughed in my life. It's the greatest.
Yeah, that one, of course, you know, just if I ever play with the NBA guys, we're always playing a casino. But yeah, I mean, you know, Draymond flew to Vegas to play with me about 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. And that was really fun. In the season, he just flew in for the night, and that was a lot of fun.
Well, he's playing great in the playoffs right now.
I keep pulling that at my friends because literally there's just, I mean, no one in the game is worth less than like $100 million. It's really sick.
Of course not. Right.
Really sick game. I mean, I'm like, and so that's the only thing I can say is, boys, I was rich in the 80s. And they're like, "You call 1 million rich, Phil?"
1 million was rich in the fucking 80s, buddy. All right, so I'm going to play to you the listener questions, and you can answer them, and then we're done. Go ahead. Play it, Danny.
Hey, Mike. How's it going? It's John in Texas. I wanted to ask Phil about how he feels about his relationship with you, and how did you guys first meet, and do you enjoy playing against each other?
Oh,
have a good one.
Interesting. That's kind of like where
Johnny
he's touching.
From Texas. So I'll say that Mike and I do enjoy playing you. We always have fun playing. When Mike and I play against each other, maybe people get the wrong impression from my last plug.
Right.
Mike and I are laughing 80% of the time. We're always laughing. They're laughing. I'm kind of a fun guy to play with. I mean, I think everybody wants to play with me, and I think everybody wants to play with him. And the reason why is we'll say some ridiculous, fun stuff, but we're always ourselves. We're authentic.
Yeah,
and people want to be with people that are authentic.
Right.
So Mike and I do enjoy playing with each other. I can speak for him and say that. Next question.
What is the latest update on Phil Ivey? When's the last time you've heard from him, and what is he doing over the past few years he's been out of the spotlight? Thanks.
I don't know.
Well, Phil Ivey was at the World Series of Poker last year. He played a lot of events last year. He had his own, you know, we have these mobile homes in the back, and there's like 5, 6, 7 of them. Negreanu has the one that's always placed up front. The first two people to have mobile homes were Ivy and I, and then Daniel joined right away in that. I stopped, and Daniel's continued. There's a mobile home in the back every year for however 10 years, whatever. It's been a long time, and so Ivy was there last year. He was playing a ton of tournaments. I saw him almost every day. He and I have a really great relationship. We laugh a lot, you know. I saw him smoking a cigarette, and I'm like, "What's up with that?" And he's like, "Oh, somebody bet me some crazy amount of money if I can smoke a pack a day, you know, for a month or something like that."
Did he do it?
$1 million or something like that. And he's like, "I just had to take the $3 million," and we were just laughing about it. You know what I mean? And then I came back to him and I said, "Phil, I'm not sure that's worth $1 million. You could get hooked." And he's like, "No shit." And we were laughing again. So he and I see each other because we walk in and out of the same door. I have a feeling Phil Ivey's going to be in poker forever, and he's just going to keep winning bracelets. And you know, he just had Didn't have the best year last year at the series, but so what? You know what I mean? My year was not very good at the series until right at the end when I picked off a bracelet.
Right. Is there any more Collins question? Okay, we have one more question. This is pretty funny. It says, Phil, do you remember the first time you played with me, and what was your first impression of me? I've already said what the first time I played with you. Do you actually remember where you said, fuck this guy, I'm going to fuck him up, or anything where you actually noticed who I was? Or
Well, I mean, Mike, when you first were playing, you were more of a random guy, right?
Right.
And, and when I'm playing poker, especially at the World Series,
right.
I don't do great at remembering names, and
Right.
I tell people I meet 50 new people a week, and that seemed to be true, especially during the series.
Yeah.
There's like 1,000 people you say, this my name's so-and-so.
Oh, yeah, I don't
And then
remember any of them.
Some of like 4% of them or 10% are mad you don't remember their name.
I know. I don't remember any of them.
I'm not a bullshitter, so I don't try to say, hey, buddy. I just say, oh, no, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. And if they're mad, I'm like, really? You know?
I'm the opposite. I go, hey, buddy, how's it going? Then as soon as we're done talking, do you know what that guy's name was? Because I try and be polite.
I'd rather be honest and authentic and straight up.
Yeah, that's
people.
smart.
And
Smart.
So I do remember when I started playing with you because you were so loud.
Yeah.
You were the loudest person in poker by far. You would, when someone walked into a room, you would hurl an insult at them. Like, oh, my God, there's so-and-so. Boy, you really sucked the other day at such and such. And I'm just like, whoa.
Well,
and you did that, but then, so I thought, wow, this guy, he's an asshole, right? And then, but then everybody said, well, Mikey's actually a really good guy. And then
I used to have fun with him.
Realized you have a little bit of a diarrhea at the mouth sometimes.
Oh, of course. All right, so Phil, we talked a lot about how a lot of times I talk about winning a tournament, and I always touch on just trying to have a positive outlook, and I told you about, well, that's because I read your book, Positivity. Why don't you just take a minute and tell everybody about your book, Positivity, and what it means to you and why you wrote it and how you're trying to help change the world.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really believed that I realized in 2001 that I inspire people. Mm-hmm. And people are like, what do you mean? You're the poker brat. Well, we all want to watch someone who's the best in the world at what they do at the top of their game. I really got quite a thrill watching Tiger Woods win, and I got quite a thrill watching him win when he was hitting the ball 2 feet away from the pin every day.
Right.
It was also fun for me to watch Michael Jordan and the effort and the energy that he puts into the game. And so I thought, all right, I can be inspirational. And then the next step was, well, how far can you take that? And so I kept hearing from friends. I kept hearing from people that they were lucky to be super successful. I live in Silicon Valley. And they'd always be, I was lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. So I started wondering, what does that mean to be in the right place at the right time? And it took me 10 years to figure this out, thinking about it a lot. We're always, all of us, in the right place at the right time every day. And so that's why my book is called #Positivity. You're always in the right place at the right time. And so I just started using techniques that I basically used to become a great poker player, that I used to accomplish all of the things I've accomplished. Mm-hmm. Writing New York Times bestsellers, hosting TV shows, all of the cool things that I've been able to do in my life. It's not an accident. And right. So, one of the things when I first got started is I wrote down my long-term goals. Mm-hmm. And, and that was way back in 1987. So there's a chapter about writing your long-term goals. Now everybody talks about that. So, but there's another chapter, and this book takes 70 minutes to read, that talks about writing down your yearly goals, so 2019 goals, and taping them on your bathroom mirror. Mm-hmm. And ever since I put this book out, Tony Robbins has been telling people in his classes to buy my book, which is the most incredible thing to me. Here's one of the guys that's influenced the world so positively for millions of people, maybe 100 million people. He's telling people to buy my book, #Positivity, in his seminars. And it just kind of blew me away. And it tells me that really I'm on the right track. And And I'm changing people's lives. I mean, people are tweeting at me, look at my goals. I wrote them on my bathroom mirror. I taped them to my bathroom mirror. The other thing is, another chapter is write down your blessings and tape them on your bathroom mirror. So that's 4 of the chapters right there. There's only 8 chapters.
That's great.
I don't want to give away any more because
we need them
I want people to buy the book. But I mean, I ran into this guy, Mike, who was a professional. He basically played. He plays the game. What's cricket for a living. I ran into a cricket player up here in Palo Alto. I had dinner with him and his partner, and he's been crushing it. And he told me he read my book. He's already made $100 million in business. He said it just made him think much bigger, and he read it in 70 minutes on the way back to South Africa. Right. And he was just so pleased with it. Another CEO of a company that just sold a company today, and he just sold Cura Brands for 1.2 billion Canadian dollars, about $1 billion. The deal was announced today, and he's talking about how my book Positivity helped his life so much.
That's good.
Cameron Forney. And when I hear powerful people that are doing powerful things, CEOs and founders, that makes me feel good because he might end up hiring another 1,000 people. But, I think I'm going to sell millions of copies of the book Positivity.
I'm glad that with the book. I'm going to have to read it. Like I write on my bathroom, like, take a shit, take your meds, fucking don't fucking die of pain today, get money to feed the cats, go to McDonald's to eat your lunch because you can't afford it anymore. But no, I'm joking. But I know about positivity because the fact, like, I used to be real negative, like back in 2007, and I used to say, I'm the unluckiest player in poker. And then one day I woke up and I started reading those books like The Secret and The Power of Positive Thinking. And that was when I had the weight loss bet with Ted. And so I was working out every day. And I said, you know what? I'm not the unluckiest player. You make your own luck. If you believe you're going to win, you're going to win. And then I went on to have a massive 2008. And then 2010 was great. And the rest is kind of history. So I do believe you make your own luck. If you believe you're unlucky, you're going to lose. If you believe you're going to win, you're going to win. I believe you have to stay in a positive mindset, and it's very important. So I appreciate it.
Positivity is so important to people in life. And so, to me, I'm so happy that I wrote this book, and I just feel like, it's for me, the journey's complete when I've helped 1 million or 2 million or 10 million people, and it's one of those books. I think the truth sells.
It does.
That's why Play Poker Like the Pros became a New York Times bestseller. I told everybody how to improve every game they play at poker, from Hold'em to Stud 8 or better to Omaha 8 or better. I told everybody, how to improve. And so it was full of truth, and it became a New York Times bestseller. This book is full of truth. And it's eventually going to spread because people are going to tell their friends to buy it. And it's eventually going to end up spreading and selling millions of copies.
And I want to go out on a limb and say, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I speak from the heart. When I finally got the spinal cord stimulator put in, and it had relieved about 70% of my pain, I went down to L.A., and you helped stake me, and you sent me some money down there, and we were up like, I don't know, 13,000, and you told me, you go, no, I'm not putting you in the 10K. You're going to win your seat into this thing. Now, I don't know if you would have put me in or not, but the bottom line is, in my mind, I said, you know what? Fucking Phil's right. I'm going to go out. I'm going to win a seat. And when I went out and won a seat, every single day, I would tell you hands I played, what happened, and you would keep me in this positive mindset day after day after day after day. And we talked a lot, and probably for the first time in years, my head was clear. I was able to have conversations with you that made sense. And I don't give a what any of these young kids say. I believe that I saw 2 people that were as good as me. They might have been slightly better than me, and I hadn't played a no-limit tournament in 2 years where they play 40,000 of them a month. So, you know what? You said something to me, Mike. You forgot you were one of the best in the world in this game for many years. Like, don't believe all these kids that they're better than you. They're not. And you kept that positive, instinct into me, and it helped me get where I was, and gave me a good shot to win.
Do you understand that Daniel has this $25,000 buy-in thing every year, right? It's a beautiful event for poker. Good job. Kudos to Daniel. Yep. You know something? You and Cantu always go for 1 or 2 points.
Or zero. I went for 0 the last 2 years.
I always walk in and I say, Daniel, or Jason Mercier or Shaun Deeb, any of you guys, here's what I'll do. Y'all take your whole board, your 120 players or your 200 players, and I'll bet $10,000 a player, and I'll take Mike Matusow. So if Mike finishes 100th in points, we break even if there's 200 players. Now, I think that you might have finished, 10th in points, 12th in points? Yeah, you were right up there.
Yeah, 2 years in a row I've been in the top 10 or 15, but yeah.
Exactly, and I would have won a fortune both years.
And every
year they pass, and every year they don't pick you anyway. And I'm like, what are you thinking?
And that was with me in pain.
The guys that have the most points, and they never pick you, and they never pick Cantu. And I remember one year I went to them and I said, Jason was almost ready to bet me. I said, $10K a player. You just choose 100 players from that list. I'll take Cantu. And I think Cantu finished 5th in the points that year.
That was Jason would have lost 3 years ago. Yeah.
$900,000 to me or something. But Jason was smart to pass. But that's the only time I'm looking to gamble is it's during Daniel's 25K. I always walk in there and say, I'll take Matusow, who you didn't even pick, against your whole field. And they always say no, and they're smart because they would have lost a lot of money.
Well,
but I don't understand. It shows the disconnect between what people think and what actually is a reality.
True. It's so true. All right, my man. What a great conversation. I'm going to go back and smash you on the app now, and I won like 200 points yesterday. Whee!
I'm getting sick of losing to the app. I'll talk to you soon.
Later. Bye.
The Mouthpiece.
Hope you enjoyed episode 6 of The Mouthpiece with 15-time World Series poker winner Phil Hellmuth Jr. I'm very happy to say and call him my friend. He's a great guy, no matter what anybody thinks, and I can't wait to do battles with him at the Felt this year. For all of you that are listening, leave a rating and a review and tell us what you think of The Mouthpiece. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
The Mouthpiece.